Sometimes in life, we take on responsibilities that aren't ours and try to live with these burdens without even realizing it. Even though life may seem like a complex knot for many of us, correctly defining responsibility is an important step to lighten our loads. For spiritual freedom, we must first free our minds from burdens. Fate provides us with a framework, but it is our small choices that determine our journey within this framework. Linking control over our lives to external reasons makes us more dependent rather than freeing us. Instead of trying to escape the difficulties we face in life, we must learn to confront them. Rather than finding distracting excuses, we should take responsibility for our feelings and thoughts. We must accept the lessons life offers us. Hello friends, today's topic is an issue that has been widely discussed and drawn interest in recent years. It has appeared in Hollywood movies, books, an area that has been the subject of healing methods, even the hypotheses of philosophers and scientists. Even though the two topics I will mention are not directly related, they converge at a common point regarding their effects on human destiny, leading to debates. Today, many people believe that the actions of our ancestors or different versions of ourselves in a parallel universe affect us here, and that we are responsible for this situation. Sometimes in life, we take on responsibilities that aren't ours and try to live with these burdens without even realizing it. One of these is the belief that things done by ancestors come out in their descendants. The idea that we must pay for what our ancestors or past generations did. Another even more interesting topic is the idea that we are responsible for the mistakes or actions of our potential versions in parallel universes. Maybe where our imagination takes us is unnecessarily burdening our soul. So how much do these thoughts reflect reality? Many of us have become accustomed to viewing the difficulties we experience in life as a legacy from the past. Some call it the burden of ancestors, others a result of karma. The real question to be asked here is this: are these really burdens we have to carry, or are we choosing to carry these burdens? Today I will examine these answers through ancient wisdom and the light of our divine guide, the Qur'an. Although life may seem like a complex knot for most of us, defining responsibility correctly is an important step in lightening our burdens. When we look back to unravel these knots, it's normal to feel that sometimes the choices, actions, or events experienced by our ancestors affect us. Actually, this situation has two dimensions. The choices made by our ancestors form a cultural structure, and this structure naturally affects us. Or environmental effects. For example, if a generation has polluted the environment, the subsequent generations also suffer the consequences. However, we need to make an important distinction here. We may feel the effects of the legacy left by our ancestors, but this does not mean we carry their sins or mistakes. A verse in the Qur'an explaining this situation says, "No one bears the sin of another." This verse clearly states that a person is only responsible for their own deeds. Divine justice is primarily based on individual responsibility. Everyone charts their own path with their own will, and they are accountable only for the choices they make on this path. The actions of our ancestors, lineage, or environment may affect us, but this does not mean we have to bear the moral or spiritual burden of their mistakes. The choices or experiences of our ancestors only affect our living conditions because they prepared the foundation of our life. However, this does not mean that we will be judged because of their actions. Another verse in the Qur'an clearly supports this. Whoever chooses the right path has chosen for their own good, and whoever goes astray to their own detriment. These verses explain that each individual charts their path with their will, and God judges everyone by their actions. Even if it is a situation that directly affects us, divine justice holds us accountable only for our own choices. Another verse, our ancestors used to associate partners with God. We are the generation that came after them. There is a passage that says, "Will you destroy us because of what those who abolished that false system did?" This verse clearly expresses the importance of individual responsibility and that the mistakes of past generations cannot be offered as an excuse. Clearly, each of us will be judged based on our own will and choices. Using the mistakes of our ancestors as an excuse means avoiding our own responsibility. Everyone's fate is shaped by their own will and choices. This is both a reflection of divine justice and an indication of our free will. So where does the saying, "the grandchild pays for the ancestors' actions rooted in society," come from? Actually, this is more a reflection of cultural beliefs than truth, in my opinion. Some people have tried to support this idea by finding examples of such situations. However, we need to clarify two main points here. First, the cause and effect relationship. In other words, what a person does can have physical or social impacts on future generations. For example, if one generation harms nature, of course, the subsequent generations will also experience the consequences of this. But this does not mean they are spiritually punished. This is just a result of the laws of nature, a simple cause and effect relationship. There is also a verse in the Qur'an that supports this. If a society does not change what is within itself, Allah will not change their condition. It means we need to make an effort to change the conditions we are in. If harm has been done in the past, our duty is to break this cycle and build a positive future. The other second point is societal judgments. Some societies try to spread the idea of moral punishment across generations. However, the Quran has a clear stance on this. No one bears the sins of another. Divine justice considers an individual's own choices, it says. Another example is the story where Prophet Ibrahim's father was on the wrong path, but Prophet Ibrahim charted his own path and progressed on the right path. This also emphasizes the importance of individual responsibility. Another topic is parallel universes. If a version of me in another dimension made a mistake or went down the wrong path, the consequences would affect me here as well. This view holds. Let's not forget this. As spiritual beings, we live in this world dimension, in this body, at the moment we are in, and with our current consciousness. Even though parallel universes are an idea, the only reality we can perceive is just right now. Let's say parallel universes exist. With my current perception, what kind of change will knowing this create in me? In the end, we know as much as we need to know and see as much as we need to see. Beyond that, there is nothing. Therefore, the only reality we are responsible for is as much as we can see, feel, and live in right now. Have we even done justice to this already? How can the Creator hold us accountable for something not shown to us? This already contradicts the basic logic. Moreover, some people confidently talk about how parallel universes are scientifically proven and so on. This information is completely incorrect. He may be speaking from his own perspective or personal experience, if any. I respect that. But the claim that it is scientifically proven is completely wrong. The parallel universe has not yet advanced beyond a hypothesis derived from scientific theories. In other words, it has not yet become a theory. Because for it to be a theory, it needs to be testable and provable. In other words, it needs to be a provable prediction. We can't really call the parallel universe even a hypothesis, because it's something that cannot be tested. Still, because it can be associated with some scientific theories by a group, it can be considered under the name of a hypothesis. Which theories it is based on is already a very lengthy video topic in itself. It is not the subject of this video. Making our lives captives of the possibilities in our minds will bring us more harm than benefit. For spiritual freedom, we must first rid ourselves of the burdens in our minds. We should ask ourselves this question: what are the things under my control today in this body at this moment? In which direction are my effort and endeavor? Am I able to properly evaluate what I have in the present moment? A verse in the Qur'an beautifully explains the balance between destiny and free will. For man, there is only what he strives for. Isn't it very brief and to the point? It so clearly demonstrates that a person's effort shapes their own destiny. Destiny offers us a framework, but it is our small choices that determine our journey within this framework. Of course, there is a universal will, but the partial will given to us by the Creator, which is also clearly expressed, is equally important and valuable. The influence of our ancestors or environment can be part of this framework, but it is our own will that decides how our life will be shaped. Breaking our shell, developing new perspectives, and steering our lives are entirely in our hands. Many healing and personal development techniques that have become popular in recent years attribute our own responsibility and power, knowingly or not, to other points, our ancestors, or our versions in parallel universes. This situation may give the person a temporary sense of relief after the session. Believing that they have found the reason or origin of their experiences provides a peace of mind. But in the long term, this perspective may take away the person's ability to recognize their inner strength, take responsibility, and transform themselves. Attributing control over our own lives to external reasons makes us more dependent rather than freeing us. Let me even discuss more extreme points. In some cases, we feel a sense of closeness towards people we do not know, or feelings of distance, anger, or discomfort. This can happen to anyone. Some attribute these feelings to past lives because they cannot find an apparent reason. By the way, it might be true. I'm not saying anything against it. I'm not opposing it. But let me tell you about an event I personally witnessed. One day, someone told me that despite there being no apparent reason in their life, they felt uncomfortable with another person, that they were relatives, but they didn't even want to be around them. That person is actually very sweet. There is no good or bad past experience between them. The person who felt the discomfort once had a session, and in this session learned that in a previous life they were married to that person and had cheated on them. And they directly linked this feeling of discomfort they felt towards that person to this. Such approaches initially give a person a sense of relief, because they think they have found the root of their feelings, and thus they somewhat shift the responsibility for their feelings off themselves. At this point, there are a few important considerations we need to pause and think about. First, we can never be sure about the accuracy of this information. The accuracy of such information cannot be definitively proven. Therefore, such explanations are merely assumptions, perhaps a trick of our brain. There are many scientific research results about the mind's games, by the way. Secondly, everyone who enters our lives has a reason in our journey of evolution. If a person is nearby in our life beyond our control, there must be a valid reason for our current life. Instead of linking the roots of our emotions to past life assumptions, accepting that the feelings we have towards that person are entirely related to ourselves is important for seeing things in ourselves and for our development. Our emotions provide clues to tell us something. Instead of suppressing them or finding excuses externally, taking responsibility for our emotions, accepting them, listening to them, and finding solutions is a work that can only be done within ourselves. The third important point is that tracing past lives is a dead end. Let's say you really didn't like someone in this life because they cheated on you in a previous life and you chose to stay away. Fine. You attributed the cause of this feeling to experiences and resentments from a past life and felt satisfied with that explanation. That's also fine. If we're going to go to past lives, then how do you know that in the lives before the one you remember, maybe you were the one who cheated on that person? This approach has no end. Continuously seeking scenarios from the past prevents us from taking on today's responsibilities. We are all learning through life's ups and downs. We make mistakes. We mature by experiencing the consequences of right and wrong. The most important gains we acquire on this journey are our relationships and experiences. Escaping from a relationship or attributing the responsibility of emotions to past lives only undermines our own development. Instead of escaping from the challenges we face in life, we must learn to confront them. Rather than finding distracting reasons, we should take responsibility for our emotions and thoughts. We must accept the lessons life offers us. The real solution is always within ourselves. However, it becomes possible to give meaning to our lives and use our inner strength with this perspective. Instead of constantly finding external reasons for what we experience and feel, let's engage in internal work. Let's ask ourselves every morning, for example, what decisions are in my hands today? What do I truly have an impact on? Let us honor the experiences of our ancestors, but not allow their mistakes to define us. Let us always remember that each new day is an opportunity to transform the effects of the past and to pave a new path. In the Qur'an it says, "Say, O my servants who have transgressed against themselves, do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Indeed, Allah forgives all sins."